Hello and welcome back. I'm Stickmasterluke. Hope you're still with me. Okay, but there's a problem. And that problem is players don't know what's going on. You're in the lobby, you're just sitting here, and the next thing you know, everybody's on this map, and everyone's just sitting in here. And then I don't know, randomly one of them has a sword, and they start slashing people and blocking people. And then there's another person with a net gun, and they just start netting people. And you don't even know what's going on. You're not even told what's going on. So what we need to do is add GUI, Graphical User Interface. That's what GUI stands for. So we're going to give players the information they need so they know what is going on. So this next part of this lesson is going to be just that. GUIs. GUIs. Okay, so we have our screen GUI, and we have a local script. I've also written up a little bit of a plan like I did for the main script. We're going to want something that listens to events. We're going to want to know when a match starts, and we're going to want to know what role we are, what class we are. Am I the Bloxxer? Am I the Sheriff? Am I the Bystander? We don't know. So we're going to tell them right here. And then we're also going to have another event for when the game is over. And when the game is over, you're going to want to know who won. Okay, and then also up here, we're also going to want a game status. So like up at the top of the screen, you probably want to say like in-game and have the timer up here, or intermission and have the timer, or loading map and have the timer, or something. So that's what that is. So you're going to want to change the title to, game in progress, intermission, or choosing map, and also have a timer there. So let's start building with GUIs. Alright, so there are lots of different GUI objects. We're just going to be going real simple, and they're pretty useful. We're just going to be using text labels. So I click text label, and you can see this thing came up on my screen. This is our GUI that we're working with. Okay, how do we want to use this? This is going to be our timer and status, game status. So we're going to name it that so we know what we're dealing with. So here in the properties box, I'm going to change the name to status title, I guess. Sounds good. And we can also, change its size, because I don't really like its size right now. It's just a square, 100 pixels by 100 pixels. GUIs have 4 values for their sizes and positions. The first value is the scale. It's typically a number from like 0 to 1. 0 would be on the left side of the screen, 1 would be on the right. And this is the X scale and the X offset. Here, if I open this, you can see it a little bit better. X scale and X offset. So offset is pixels. If I say that I want this, X offset by, that's the size. So if I say I want it to be 200 wide, I just do that. It's 200 pixels wide. If I want it to be 20% of the screen, that's 0.2. 0.2 is 20%. It's very similar. But yeah, this is 20% across my screen, so 20%. Yeah. What we're gonna do is we're gonna set the size offset by 300 and 400 Y vertically. 40, sorry. Because this is just a label at the top, and it's not centered, right? It's on the left. So let's center it across the X. So we're going to want to put 0.5. So this position, we're setting the position now. 0.5 is in the middle of your screen. It's right here. And unlike parts, the position isn't at the center. The position is at the upper left corner. Okay, so 0.5, this is where it is. And now we're going to want to subtract half of its size. That's how you truly center things. And its size is 300, so we're going to subtract half. So for the offset, minus 150. And there we go. And it's kind of hugging the top of the screen. I don't really like it hugging the top of the screen, so I'm just going to put it 5% down from the top. 5% down. Okay. Now that we've got it positioned, it looks a little bit ugly. Don't want to be rude here, but it doesn't look the best. So let's first get rid of the background. Set the background transparency to 1. There we go. And just border pixel to 0. Okay, So it's going to be here, but it's still you know, not appealing. So let's change the font. Source Sans looks a little thin, so let's use bold. It's a little bit small, so let's make it larger. $36, yeah, I think that's pretty good. So we're gonna use font size 36. We're gonna use a different color. So I just set it to kind of a bluish color. It's hard to read against the skybox depending on where you're looking. So we're gonna add the stroke transparency. So right now, stroke is like the background border color of it. So we're going to change the stroke. Right now it's fully transparent, you can't see it. We're gonna set that to 0.6. I've messed with these a little bit. So you kind of see it gives it this slightly like black shade around it, so you can read it now. Where before it was blending in perfectly with the horizon of the sky. Okay, so it just says label. If we go up here to text, we can set that to intermission or something. Intermission. Actually, this is also going to be having the timer on it. So let's. What is the timer going to look like? Probably something like this. So let's say the intermission has 45 seconds left. It'd be like that. Well, it's only for 20 seconds, but this is what a timer is going to look like, depending on what the status is. Okay, we've got that done. Let's hook that up. Okay, so for the status, let's make a variable at the top of our script called local GUI equals script. I typed script wrong. Script parent. Just so we know what our script parent is. It's our GUI. We're just going to call it GUI. It doesn't matter. You can name this anything. It's just a variable. We're going to, okay, here's what we're going to do. In replicated storage, so both the server and the client can see it, we're going to insert two objects. One object is going to be a string value. The next object is going to be an int value, which is an integer. There it is, int value. They're both named the same. Int value, if you look at the class name. Okay, so this one, the int value, is going to be called timer tag. And the string value is going to be called status tag. Okay. So the main game script is going to change the values of these, and then our GUI script is going to listen to those changes and update this title thing at the top. So we gotta listen, we gotta wait for these things. So we're gonna need replicated storage, so replicated storage. Get service replicating storage. Okay. Got replicated storage. We're gonna want status tag, local status tag is equal to and we're also going to want to do the same thing for the timer. Timer tag. Okay. We've waited for the timer tag and the status tag. Now that we have these things, we're going to assume that the values on them are going to be changing. We're going to have to change these in our script. Make sure our main game script changes these. But let's code it in the GUI first. Let's listen to them changing. To do that, we do timer tag dot changed. These values have a event on them called changed. So on changed, connect, And there's gonna be a function that this calls update status. And we want to do the same thing for the other one. Update status. Okay, so both of these, if either of these changes, we're going to call the same function to update the status. And also let's update the status right when the script starts. So let's say you spawn, we're going to update this immediately. Okay. Now let's make the function that these things are going to be firing. Update status. Done. Oops. Okay, done. Okay. So, if timer tag dot value is actually status tag dot text, so we're gonna set the text of the status tag. This should actually be status title. Status title. This GUI element that we made. Let's make a reference to it. So up here, actually down here, local status title equals GUI wait for child status title. Status title dot text is equal to status tag dot value. So if our game script changes the value of status tag, we change the GUI as well to match it. And then we're also going to want to have the timer in here. So we're going to add to this string by using a double period like that. 2 spaces, open parenthesis, inside a quote. So this is a string value of 2 spaces and an open parenthesis. Because we want to have 2 spaces. I think this would be better with 2. Let's look at it. Yeah, 2 spaces and then the timer. So and then we got to put the dynamic timer in here and then close off the parenthesis. Okay, so that just puts the timer in here. Unfortunately, if the game's running, so if the if let's say it's in the middle of a match, the timer could be 300. It could be 250. It's gonna be a weird number. No one knows what 250 seconds is in minutes, because a minute is 60 seconds, not 100. So let's write a function to convert 258 seconds into minutes and seconds, so that players know more appropriately how much time is left. So we're writing a function to do that. Function seconds to timer. That's just what I'm going to call it. You can call the function whatever you like. Okay, so local minutes is equal to seconds. So we're going to hand this seconds. We're going to hand this function seconds. So we're going to throw this thing 258. That's just an imaginary number that we're going to be testing with logically. 258. So minutes is equal to 258 divided by 60. And then math.floor is rounding down. So if just in case it's like 250.1 or whatever, we're going to be rounding it down. Well, no, we're dividing it by 60. So 258 isn't exactly a multiple of 60. So this, converts it to a whole number. 258 is at like 4 minutes. That's 4 minutes. And some number of seconds, 18 seconds. So now we gotta find the remainder seconds. So local remaining seconds is equal to seconds modulate 60. Okay, so now we know how many minutes are left, and we know how many seconds on top of those minutes. So by modulating by 60, 258 mod 60 is 18 seconds. Okay, so return to string minutes dot 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 semicolon, because that's how time is displayed typically. So again, these dots are using to add. We're using to add strings together. Remaining seconds. Cool. Okay, but what are remaining seconds? What if remaining seconds is I want to have 2 digits for the seconds. So if there's only 5 seconds remaining, I don't want it to be just 5. I want it to be 0.5. So a minute and 5 seconds would be 1 semicolon 0.5 instead of just 1 semicolon 5, because that looks really wrong. If remaining seconds is less than or equal to 9, then let's make this toString. Actually, that's not. We can't. Okay. Remaining seconds is less than 9. Actually, if it's less than 0, if it's equal to 0 or somehow less than 0, which it should never be, but if it's 0 seconds left, then we want remain seconds to be two zeros. Else if remaining time seconds, sorry, so less than or equal to 9, that means it's only 1 digit, and we're going to want to remaining seconds so we're checking if there are no digits, we're just setting it to 0, 0. If there's 1 digit, we're setting it to we're adding a 0 to the front of the seconds. Otherwise, it's good. So we just end it. Okay, so if it's 1 digit, we add a 0 to the front. And if there's no digits, then we just 0, 0. So it'll be 1, 0, 0 for 1 minute, like you see on a microwave. Okay. Also, what if for map loading, we don't have a timer for map loading. We don't need a timer for map loading. So let's put in a little special case here. If the timer is less than -1, less than or equal to, if it's less than 0, we don't want to show the timer part of this. So if timer tag dot value is less than 0, then I'm going to copy this, paste it there. So if it's less than 0, get rid of this whole timer part. Just set it to the status. So it'll just be loading map if I set the timer tag to -1. Okay. And we can also add some little niceties here by changing the color of this depending on what the status is. So if status tag is equal to intermission, then now I've already coded this and I know the colors I want. You can mess around with the colors a little bit on your own and figure out what you want. But for the intermission, I want 203 divided by 255, comma 1, comma 1. So if it's an intermission, it's going to be bluish greenish. So you see how it's kind of bluish? Let's go over here. See, color 3 values are 0 to 255. 255 means it's super bright, and 0 means it's dark. And so there's 3 different values here: RGB, red, green, blue. And so when you're coding it, it's actually a number from 0 to 1. So when I am testing it out in game and I say I like this color. I like this bluish color. And I look in here at the actual color. It says 203, 255, 255, 255. 255 is the same thing as 1. 255 is the same thing as 1. And this 203 is a fraction between 1 and 0. 0 and 1. So I just put it divided by 255. Okay. And the same thing for the other statuses. I've figured out some colors that I like. Oh, whoops, status. Okay, so I've colored them. For the intermission status, it's going to be this color. For a match in progress, it's going to be yellowish. And then for if the map is loading or if we're waiting for players, it's going to be more green. But they're all bright pastel kind of colors. Okay, so that's just a little nice touch. Now we got to make our game script change these values so the GUI knows what's going on. We gotta actually tell it what's going on. So go to the main script. Now that we're in the main script for the game, the main script, the server script, let's go to the top, which we are, and figure out. Let's see. Here we're gonna want to. Actually, we gotta define these at the top. Sorry. Local status tag equals game. Replicated storage. Wait for child. Wait for child timer tag. Okay, now that we have variables for our status and our timer, we can set them. So up here when we're loading the map, we just want to do status tag dot value equal loading map. Okay, and then we're going to want to start the timer off. While it's loading the map, you're not going to want a timer, so we're going to set the timer to -1. And you see I'm using value. Also in the local script, I'm using value. Oh, quickly go back to the local script and change this. So we made this whole function over here, but we didn't actually use it properly. We didn't actually implement it in our code. So we gotta convert this timer tag value into the proper timer. So that's what we wrote this function for, and now we're so you plug this in here and it comes back out as a microwave style timer. Okay, so yeah, we're setting the value of these objects because that's a property that holds a number or holds a string value, which is just text. So I'm going to copy these and place them where else we need them. So we need them when we're loading the map, when we're waiting for players. That's what this else is actually for. It's nice to put these right here. Okay, so if there aren't enough players, then it gets out of this loop and it starts a new game. If there aren't enough players, then it says, hey, we're waiting for players. And up here it says we're loading map. Okay, so after we've waited for the players, so after we wait for contestants, the game is starting. So we set it right here as well. Status tag value equals match. In the timer, we're actually going to set to a time, and that's going to be the round time. Round time. I think that's what we called it. Scroll back up. Round timer. Scroll back down. Round timer. So this is going to be set to 300, which is going to get converted to 5:00. So it looks like 5 minutes. And that's that. And then we're also going to want a timer. Oh, we're going to want to update this timer. Okay, because right now we just set it to 5 minutes. We could actually, remove the counter on it. Okay, so we're waiting for the round end conditions. While we're waiting for the round end conditions, let's update the timer every second. So we don't need to set the status anymore, but the timer tag, we're going to want to set this to local timer. It's actually going to want to be under the local timer so that you can remove one, oops, and then see it change. Okay, so as it's waiting for the timer to exhaust or any of the round end conditions, it's updating the timer every second. And then we're also going to want to make the intermission wait. Oh, we never even filled in this wait with how long the intermission was. That's okay. Let's do the same thing as we did up there. So local timer equals intermission timer. Intermission timer, I think we defined a long time ago. Intermission time. Okay, it's a little bit confusing. I'll use an R here, but just time here. Anyways, intermission time equals 20. So we're setting that to 20 while actually let's set these first. Status tag.value equals intermission. Local timer equals intermission time. Or timer tag equals intermission time. Okay, while local timer is greater than 0, do wait 1 local timer minus 1. Oh, oops, equals local timer minus 1. Okay, and then we gotta again update the actual timer that's being replicated to the local timer. Okay, so every time we are counting down by 1, we're also counting down by 1. Okay, and then this breaks when. Okay, so this is just like the waiting for end conditions, wherever we're doing that up here. We're waiting 1 second, waiting for the end conditions. Down here, we're waiting 1 second and waiting until the timer reaches 0. And updating the timer tag as we do that. Okay, so I think that's everything for the status. Okay, so I think that's everything for the status and for the timer. Next, we'll be doing the events, such as match start and game over. That's about it for now. Be sure to check in for the next video. Until then, remember, you make the game.